All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Crystal Kingdom Jury Questioning, part of our finale. We have our final two here, Crow and Jared. Just kidding. It's me. It's a final three. Um, so tonight, what's going to happen is Crow and Jared are going to start with some opening statements, going to talk about their game or whatever else they want to talk about. Each of our jurors will then have 7 minutes with the finalists to ask questions, make statements, do whatever they want. And then our finalists will have closing statements to make. Once that's over, the jury will have 24 hours to send in their votes for who they think who should win, and tomorrow night we'll reveal it. So that is all the talking that I plan on doing tonight. So we will go ahead and get started. Jared, you have 5 minutes.
All right. I assume that means starting now. Hi, everyone. It's super exciting to be here. I sort of thought a little bit in my head about like what I wanted to say and where I wanted to go with this. But I sort of decided that like I didn't want to be too rigid in like what I wanted to talk about. I think that so much of my game was social with most of the people in the game, actually. I worked a lot around like the idol system and like sort of how to use that to my advantage socially. Like I got a lot of information and like found advantages that were really key and crucial to my game. From getting social information from people like Emily and people like Sam, who I sort of gave a little bit of information to, and maybe received a little bit of information back, but like information that was crucial in me finding what I needed to know. I came into the merge sort of in a strange place because I was on a team where I felt like I was in a minority. I had worked a lot to build a relationship with Ruthie, which I do truly believe to be one of the most like influential and impactful relationships of the game. Ruthie kept me safe through so much, and I was able to work with her to sort of like my Sapphire Idol play. Like no one knew this, but Ruthie was a crucial part of that. Ruthie told me that the votes were on me. She said, "I don't want to vote you," and I said, "Bestie, just do it." And so that put me into a position where I was in a really great spot. I canceled 6 votes against me with the only idol of the season. I moved forward through the game. No one realized, I don't think, how crazy the Emily vote was, because all day the vote was on Lindy. Like our whole plan was to vote Lindy, and then we were trying to psych out Nick R because he sort of alluded to a safety without power. And we did that, and then Emily tried to like flip the vote onto Lindy, and we were like, well, if Emily's voting Lindy, then we're voting Emily, like if that's what the other team's doing. So that was sort of like the peak craziness of the game. And then into the end game, which I feel like is where people might have the most questions in terms of like the decisions that I made. People spent this entire game grouping Crow, Eve, and myself together. And at some point, I think we've all been here before, you get to a point where it's like, well, if people think we're this tight trio, we may as well be. And I was super tight with Eve and Crow basically throughout the game. Eve's plan to run the whole pre-jury, which was successful, I would say. Like they talked to me about that on night 1 or night 2. And I was like, hey, that's cracked, but it keeps Shoiru safe for a really long time. So go for it. And it all worked out exactly sort of how they imagined it would. So like my relationship with Eve was super valuable. My relationship with Crow, 2 minutes left, good Lord. My relationship with Crow is complicated because everyone thought we knew one another at the beginning, and we did not. I'm sure that I'll have to defend that all night and after the season and whatever. But being away from Crow was really difficult for me in the swap teams because Crow is someone I strategized with nonstop. And we came back together, and there certainly was a spark of something more than strategy there. I don't know if he'll want to speak to that as well, but I think that that's important to my game because it was maybe not the most strategic decision. Like when Lindy went and when Ruthie went, it probably was smarter for me to take them. But I already had in my mind that I wanted this game to be Eve, myself, and Crow at the end. And specifically, I wanted Crow and I to sit at the end together because of that relationship that we've built and because of that sort of personal connection that we've built. So there's a little bit of like this happening with Crow and I. And I'm interested, like if y'all want to hear about that, by all means, I will explain. But that is sort of the nuts and bolts, like overhead view, 500 feet up view of my game. I think that I played really hard. I won challenges. I was pretty social like most of the game, and I was a front runner. And like I canceled 6 votes against me, and then didn't get a single vote for the rest of the season. Like no one. There are 0 successful votes against me, and I think that my name was in people's mouths from night one. Like Shane called me immediately on night one and said, "Look, you need to distance yourself from Jules and Jinx because people think y'all are tight." And I said, "It's going to be a bumpy road," and it was. But I'm here and I'm excited to answer any questions that you guys have. So sorry that was so fast, but I love you all. Thanks for listening. And I got this little squishmallow. Her name's Crystal in honor of the season. I was at Target today. Seemed appropriate.
Do I go now? Okay, I'm just going to start. I'm assuming that means me. So first off, I just want to say thank you all for a wonderful game. It's actually been one of the most enjoyable games with a pretty enjoyable cast for the most part. It's been a ride, not necessarily a bumpy ride, but an interesting one because I've never had the pre-made stuff be such a big deal around me because I'm not someone who's like super well connected. But I'd say first and foremost, when I come into games, I'm the literal antithesis of Jared. Like, and I think that's opposite, and that's kind of why we work so well together. I'm not super social. I don't know how to make connections with everyone. I look for quality over quantity. And I look for people who can fill in my gaps, if that makes sense. I think that's what I did. Luckily, being grouped with Jared on Shory Rerun day one or whatever that happened. And so that's why Jared and I kind of connected really fast, and why both strategically and personally it worked out pretty well between us, I'd say. But beyond Jared, I think notably when we got swapped apart and I went to Mohawk, and not only was I away from Jared, I was away from anyone that I knew. You know, I had Sam, but we hadn't really voted together yet. Like Final 13 clearly voted differently. So it was a big struggle for me to like say, pick myself up from the bootstraps and say, you got to get through this. Cause for one, like, yes, we have Shane as an easy vote, but after that, there's no easy votes left. And you have to decide how you want to approach merge. Now, do you like carry these relationships through to merge, or do you go back to even Jared or whatever? And in my head, I was thinking, I need to come up with the most unified group to go to merge with, because we're going to be down on numbers for one. And I can't just sit back and rely on Jared's connections to Ruthie, Nick R, Lindsay, whoever it may be on the other side. Eventually, but you know, plans go wrong. And although I made it through the Mohawk 3 votes without a vote against me and, you know, sat in majority, merge did not go as expected for me at all. I know a lot of people, you know, pretty much everyone knows now that I was a part of the final 9 Sapphire Idol play. Like I knew Sapphire Idol was in play. I knew how I was getting played. I knew Sam was going home. Sorry, Nick R. But I wasn't ready to lose Sam and then play this game with only Emily, who then threw out my name at Final 8, a lot apparently, and have to rebuild my game. And that's where I had to really adapt and pretty much trust people, because my name was out there every single round. I know everyone's eyes were on Jared. Apparently, you know, he was labeled most social threat. You know, he was very open about it, but somehow it was my name coming up. And I can't determine if that was because I was more threatening for challenge reasons, or if it was just easier to get votes on me. But it was very difficult, despite being a majority, to have my name out there every single round and to get votes from finals, you know, final 6, final 5, final 4. It was like if there was someone flipping or some idol, I was the one paying the price. And I think keeping my calm, despite having absolutely nothing, Nick R and the rest of you touchy subjects voted me most likely to have an idol. Eve had a Sapphire idol. I had nothing in this game. I had my own wits about me to try and pretend like I did have one. And that was a big move for me because I was freaking out in my DR most of the day when I heard my name was out there. So for me, it was about building quality relationships that had trust built into them and trusting they would go through to the end. And they did with Jared and they did with Eve. And even Ruthie, who I didn't really talk much and more Jared's connection, you know, kept me in the game when she had the chance to flip on me. So I feel like it was a lot of patience and a lot of taking a breath. And then as far as Jared kind of alluded to, so I know a lot of people heard that I was wanting to flip on Jared and all this stuff. And at the moment that I told you that, I really was, because I knew damn well that this was not going to be like the ideal final 2 for me. I'm still well aware of that. But it got more than game for me. And at this point, I'm happy about how the game has ended, no matter how this vote goes. And I really have had a blast. And it's been, again, not the normal game I would normally play, and maybe not the game I hyped up everyone else to think I might play. but I have no regrets. But I'm open to having a sea of questions come at me tonight. So thank you again for this wonderful game. That's it. You're on mute, RTP, if you're talking.
I always do this shit to myself. Seasons, I learned how to use this freaking program. It's fine. Well, thank you very much to the final two. Thank you for your opening speeches. It is time to get to the jury portion of tonight. We have our wonderful first juror here, the king of the jury, as I like to refer to him, and my favorite Nick. Take that. So here we come. Nixie, welcome. You have 7 minutes.
I've never heard you refer to me as the king of jury till now, so that. So like, I'm just gonna talk about how I felt because I didn't experience most of the merge, right? But Jared, there's a lot of talk since 13 onwards about you being this social butterfly, this social threat, right? And I mean, you even acknowledged it. So I want you, because we played this game a lot together, the first half. What do you learn about me? And what do you learn about me? And what do you think I, as a juror, would want to vote for?
So I would say that I actually had a pretty, I found you very hard to read, actually, which is interesting because I don't find people, particularly hard to read usually. And the round that I felt like you weren't hard to read anymore was the final 13 round, when we finally were, doing something. And so from that, my experience with you in that round, I think that what you're going to be looking for is people who played strategically and people who made the moves that they needed to make, because we sat we talked that morning and we were we're not cutting William here. It makes no sense. We were if two majority alliances want to cut William, then that doesn't make sense for us to do. And and we were you talking to me is what made that vote flip onto Ruthie for the other side of the game, right? The side of the game that was Eve and Jinx and Emily and that group of people that voted together. And so I wish that I had a better read on you, in terms of personally, I feel we didn't have a huge personal connection within the game from being on Choiru. But I think that just from getting that glimpse of you from that round, I think that showed me what a strong strategic force you were in the game. Because I think a lot of people that round were ready to just sort of let William go and to just be William is easy. There are 13 of us. Let's just make this easy. And you really said hold my beer. We're not making this easy. And it was the smart move, right? And of course, it was risky because we went to rocks and it ended up weirdly being on you because of Lindy's plan, which wasn't what either of us anticipated at the time. But whatever, I'm getting rambly. But my point is that I think you're going to be looking for someone who was really strategic and who looked beyond sort of what the easy decision was and sort of moved past that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's okay. And then Crow, I feel definitely on Shoyu, I talked way more strategy with you than I did talk with Jared. I think you can acknowledge that as well, and you can see that. My question is, it felt like everything we talked about and you agreed about, you did the opposite in this game. So on very early in the beginning, I told you, Eve and that tribe, and I think I don't know if I said in the confessional or I said to you also, they are a parasite alliance. They are purposely throwing the challenges. They're going from tribe to tribe, picking up allies, and we need to do something about it. And then you work with all of them. And then at 13 or 14, I told you, we have to stick together because you are gonna lose against Sam. Sorry, team. And I think you will lose against Sam and you will lose against Jared. And then you got me at 12. Which I feel that's a fine move. I get the cutting me at 12, but I feel cutting me at 12 is a significant pivotal point in your game. I don't know if it's a good pivotal point or a bad pivotal point, but it did feel like a shift from you playing a game to win to then playing a game to get to the end. And I think a lot of the people on the jury are going to be wondering about this aspect of what differentiated your game from a winning game and from a game that is getting to you to the end. And I don't want to hear oh, you can't win if you don't get to the end kind of thing. So
yeah, I guess first off, one part that I think clearly must have hit it pretty well was that I knew about Eve's plan. Eve came to me actually before Jared about the throwing plan. I was in that group. I was in the whole like plans details. So it wasn't something that I jumped to because I learned about it later. It was something I knew from day one. Eve came to me to work through the details. Why I voted you out. I actually did not want you out that round. Like in my head, I was like, Nixie is someone I think I can use at merge. However, in my mind, I was scared of Lindsay, Nick R, Ruthie, and Lindy, people who did not have connections with. And I was like, we are clearly going to merge with less numbers. We need unity rather than my individual connection. Because I'm not going to break that by myself because I don't know these people. And so I felt like with Sam and Emily and William, we could have a more of a diverse background with our teams to go and like infiltrate that. I didn't expect double counsel, of course. Otherwise, I may have done something different. But that's why I voted you out there. And that's why I feel like it was a little bit of shift because I actually told Sam the minute we lost, I was like, can we vote William out? And he was like, well, Emily doesn't want to do William. And Emily did not want to do William. I learned that myself when I asked her. And so it was like, either we lose Emily and William and take you to 3, thereby taking another number out of whatever we had, or make it a foursome and go and merge and try our best. And then to answer the second part of your question about going to the end versus trying to win. For one, I think, and I don't know if this is to credit Jared or just how the dynamic fell of the cast of coming in with people I didn't know, but Jared was not targeted before me. If I turned on Jared, I would go home the next round. No one would trust me. I had fragile social standing in the game. Like it felt a little bit like, yes, I couldn't be the front runner, but I also couldn't go on my own, make a big move and expect anything to happen other than me getting the next boot. I was vulnerable the same time Jared was, and they voted me before Jared.
But it does sound like you did attribute to putting yourself in those positions where you could not turn on Jared.
I mean, I think it's a little bit debatable because Jared took me to the end. Jared cut every other person thought they were their final 2 along the way to get me here. So
mean, he did take you because I think he can beat you, and apparently he wants to rail you also. so like maybe that's took you to the end. I don't know. I'm very open. As much as it sounds like I'm against you, I'm very open to voting either way, depending how the questions follow through. So don't worry about it. Don't worry. I'm very open.
I think it's a valid point. I struggled with the decision to think about me and Jared being at the end because I knew damn well that it was not going to be an easy battle by any means. But at the same time, I feel like because of who was at the final 9 merge, I wasn't going to become best friends with Lindsay and Nick R overnight. That wasn't going to happen. And I wasn't going to just be able to find myself a new solid alliance that was as solid as me and Eve that would carry me when I was being targeted round after round. So,
yeah.
All right. And with that perfect timing, it is now over. Nick, thank you so much. And I'm now going to kick you out. So see you later. All right. Our next juror is William, who could not make it tonight, but we do have a video question from him. So here is William.
Hello, you wonderful human beings and RTP. How are we today? I am very upset that I cannot be there in person to be with y'all today. So I will simply be here with my hand, thinking about who to vote for to win. So we do have 2 questions for each people. I'll go really fast. First to Jared. For people, you want me out for so long, like in pre-merge. Why? I just want to know why personally. And my question to you is, what would your original game plan have been if, let's just say, Jared and Eve weren't in the game? Sure. And then to you, Crow. Another question about me, because I'm jealous. Not jealous, petty. Why did you vote me out during the twist when you know I kind of want to work with you and I was in your pocket versus someone like Emily or Sam who was not? And then the question to you is,
I guess the same question. What would you have done if Jared and Eve were not in this game, or had been voted out pre-merge? What would have been your merge game if they weren't here?
Jared, you can go first.
Wow, you're so generous. Okay. Yeah, so that's fine. So it sounded like the first part of that question was why was I obsessed with William? And I will admit that in the first part of the game, William, if you're watching this, which I assume you will because you filmed questions, like I thought you were coming for me. Like from the first like team call, like when we were in One World, like just the vibe that I got, I was like, William is gonna kill me in this game if he gets the chance. And like this is my fourth org, so like I have not like this is the first time I've ever played with someone who I've beat before. And so William was a connection that I had, like a very direct connection where I was like, I snaked William at Final Four before. And I was like, William's not going to take me to Final Four again. He saw what happened last time. And so in my head, I was like, William is not someone that I can work with. However, I do want to push back against that a little bit because, like I said, when I just talked to Nixie, Nixie like came up with that plan, but like I was very on board with that of like the keeping William plan. I think it was very transparent, and you can ask like Crow, you can ask Eve, you can ask Sam, like anyone who was involved in that plan. Like I was very actively pushing flipping that vote to Ruthie over William after it sort of happened. So I will say that like once we talked more, William, like and once we got sort of like more on the same page, and I realized that you like weren't in tight with like the Shane group and like all of that, I was like, okay, I'm totally cool with working with you. So that sort of like answers that, I think. And then what would my game plan have been if Crow and Eve weren't in the game? I think my relationship with Ruthie, I'm gonna fall back on that as sort of like the cornerstone of my merge because like Ruthie was truly sort of like the ace up my sleeve in this game. And I don't mean to like minimize Ruthie's game because she truly like she played super well. But Ruthie had my back in this game in a way that no one saw until it was too late. And Ruthie never, I mean, we saw it at Final Four. I told Ruthie before council, I was like, I have to vote you out because I can't vote Crow. I can't do it. And Ruthie still didn't write my name down. And that's because she was super loyal. And so Ruthie would have been super important to my game. I think Lindy is someone that after we got past Lindy voting me out, I chose to strategically ignore. That's someone that I would have worked super tightly with. It would have been a much harder path, to be honest. But I think part of the reason that Crow and Eve and I worked so well is because so many people ground that into everyone that we were already working together. So we figured we have to be this loyal to one another because people are anticipating that we are. So we may as well have that trust. But I think that it would have been a much harder path for me to the end had Eve and Crow not been here. But I think that I would have had, I would venture to say of the three of us, I would have had the still the smoothest path to the end had the other two not been there. And I yield the floor.
Okay, try to do super fast. I know I'm running out of time. First part, why did I vote you out? Well, firstly, I didn't think we'd be voting, but it was also a panic decision because, you know, it was like I just need 2 votes on someone because I knew I could trust Sam, and Emily was not telling me a straight answer, and you were going to vote for Emily, and it was like, we don't know what to do. It was just a very panicky situation. But I think it came down to Emily had a past with working with people I'd already worked with. So it's going to be less of a struggle to convince her to vote with me, Sam, and Jared, Eve, or whoever it is, at the merge against people that I didn't quite know or trust yet. And so it became a more comfortability thing about who we're going to make the group with. Do I regret that? I don't know if I can say I regret it, but Emily did turn on, you know, that group pretty fast, or at least not Sam, but me. So that was more of a panicky decision. It wasn't a well thought out one. It wasn't something I had mastermind in my head, like, oh, we're going to go double council. We voted William. Like, that's why it was 2-1-1, because it was just all over the place. Secondly, what I do without Jared and even this game, what I did at Mohawk. I think that was a very clear distinction. Like, I went to the team of 6 and I didn't get a single vote against. Everyone else did. Went to 3 councils. I could have started a 4th council, I'm pretty sure, if we had to go again. So like, I think I had the ability to play the game for myself without them. Do I say I could have made it to the end without them? Don't know, because I don't know how I would have approached Lindsay, Nick R, and Ruthie differently, and Lindy differently. And that would have been night and day because I didn't have anyone to fall back on, so I would have had to try. But I did try with Nick R, and I'm not sure if that's come up yet, but I recognize that Jared had Ruthie, even Lindy had their bond from Lutari way back when, and I tried to have someone on their side. And Nick R and I, you know, we butted heads a little bit, and it was more of like the lingering Sam connection we had. But it was someone I tried to talk to, and maybe I can get to it more in his question if he has a question. But I really did try and branch out of Jared and Eve, Though I'm not going to sit here and say I would have easily made it here as, you know, without Jared and even this game, because their connections got me here. But I think I would have tried harder and been less okay with being the target if they weren't in the game. And I think I could have found my way out of it, honestly. That's it. You're on mute again, RTP.
Fuck me, honestly. Y'all have been timing everything perfectly. There's always been like 10 seconds left, so good job. Our next juror is Sam, who has submitted a question. So we will get to that. Sam's question is, sorry, it's not actually a question, it's more of a statement. Have them pick a number between 1 and 10.
You go first.
8.
7.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sam. All right, next juror we have is here. We have the wonderful, iconic, best microphone in the world juror, Emily. Emily, you've got 7 minutes to go.
We can't hear you. Speaking
You're
of the
on
best
mute, but I
microphone in
can't
the
hear
world.
you. Yeah.
Not the best microphone in the world.
Best microphone in the world. Sorry, I paused your time. This doesn't count.
This is evil. Yeah, because you're not muted, but we just cannot hear you.
Nope, nothing. This is great. I love that I literally introduced Emily as best microphone in the world. No,
You jinxed it.
I really did. I'm so sorry, Emily. All right, well, actually, what we can do while Emily figures this out is our next juror is. Oh, all right, Emily. We're just gonna move past you until we figure it out. Okay. Our next juror is Lindsay, who cannot be here, so we have a video for Lindsay. So just bear with me while I share my screen and don't make it echo this time. All right, here.
Sup, bitches? Congrats on Final Tribal Council, Crow and Jared. You guys have made it, and that is very exciting. So congrats to both of you. I wish I could be there in person tonight, but I am probably face down in a Denny's parking lot with the remains of a 7-Eleven blue raspberry slushie around my comatose body. So, with that said, there's always at least one dumb bitch who is in jury and just doesn't ask jury-related questions. Sometimes they just ask you to pick a number 1 to 10. Sometimes it's other shit. Tonight, that's going to be me. Because to be totally honest, between not being a Final Tribal Council and just my general disillusionment with both of your games and not having a reason to see otherwise, I don't really care gameplay-wise the difference between both of you. There are several other jurors who will care. I am not one of them. So your vote tonight, or my vote tonight, is going to be decided on your answers to the next 2 questions. One of them is just give me a music recommendation. To be totally transparent, because I know Jared knows this, I do really like pop punk, but I also have Fergalicious on my playlist, and I know all the words. And I also have everything from country to obscure fucking prog metal, so you can really go ham here. Just give me something you think I would like. And my second question for you, and this one's going to take a little more time, so I'm trying to be brief, is give I guess all of us jury members, give us one moment that was your favorite that you had with us. So go through the jury members, tell us what your favorite moment was that you had with that jury member. I guess you guys didn't do a super fantastic job of jury managing a single one of us. This is probably one of the more bitter juries that I've been in. Not the most, but up there. So this is your chance to make up for that. Do some jury management now. What was your favorite moment? So once again, congrats to both of you. It should have been Eve. Eve was robbed, and have fun with the rest of Tribal Council. I hope this is at least a little bit of a break.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay, even though you said tribal 100 times. Okay, so your questions are 1, music recommendation for Lindsay, and 2, your favorite moment with each juror. If you promise to go quickly, I will forego timing this because that's a lot for both of you. So, whichever one of you wants to start, you can go ahead.
Okay, I guess I'm going first here. It's on mute. So music recommendation. This might be completely off, but it's what I listen to when I'm emo. Maybe not being emo, but I would listen to Alec Benjamin. So that's done. Okay. Jury moments with every single juror. So Nick C, I would say, would be the challenge. Sorry, my dog is biting me right now. Nick C would be the challenge of the one of the boards and stuff, and he figured out the Spice Girls instantly, and then like just went off. That was like, I didn't expect that from Nixie. I don't know. I'm sorry, Nixie, if you were like told me at some point that you knew that, but that was hilarious to me, and you popped off. Who's next? William, I think it was our talk we had privately, which not many people addressed, and me calling out that we should vote you out Final 13, not knowing you would actually be a target at Final 13. That was completely by accident. Next, who is that? That would be Sam. A lot of moments with Sam. I think it'd be the creation of the Eggplant Alliance. I really didn't expect that to be the actual name we'd stuck with. I thought we would change. I thought it was a joke because of the free rice profile picture, but I found that unreasonably funny. Emily, a moment. I don't know if there's a single moment. It was just the fact of me freaking out on my DR that you were throwing out my name. Because I was like, I love Emily. Why is she doing this? Why are we going against each other? There's no reason for it. And that entire, I guess that episode moment where you have me, I love her so much, Emily plotting against me in the background. Who's next? I know my jurors by heart. I do. Lindsay. Honestly, we never talked. And you know that. And that's probably why this vote is so hard for you. But I think the moment that cracked me up the most was my dream about the third eye that I PM'd you about that involved you for some reason because you had said it earlier in the call. Nick R, favorite moment I think would be your Isles Up Council because I didn't expect you to show up to begin with, and then you just show up and be sassy about it. It was not what I was expecting. I thought you would just silently be off there. So that was really funny to me actually, although it might have pissed off Eve. Sorry, Eve. Final 5, that would be Lindy. Lindy. Oh my goodness. Favorite moment would be when you posted your Neopets thing. And you didn't know this moment happened. It just happened in my DR as well. But when you posted your Neopets thing, I immediately looked you up and I was like, how the hell does Lindy have a level something Neopet? We just started today. This is rigged. And I just went off and I was like, screw it. And I locked in my score. But and looking back, I was pissed in the moment, but looking back, I was like, Lindy kind of snapped there. Not gonna lie, give it to her. She earned that immunity. Ruthie, I think Ruthie would be when she showed up drunk or somewhat drunk to Final Four immunity. That was unexpected because I saw Ruthie's profile. She practiced so many times. So for her to say, sorry guys, I'm not going to video call. I've had a few drinks tonight. I was like, not sweet Ruthie. Eve and I think would be when we played Drag Race on Roblox with Jaden. And then that's when I'm pretty sure that's the birth of the Eve me duo being confirmed, was that how comfortable we got talking on call together. And I was like, the fact that I took a Drag Race on Roblox to put that in people's minds is the irony of it all. But anyways, that's everyone. Jared, your turn.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with music recommendation because I got it tattooed on me, Lindsay. Things are shaping up to be pretty odd. That Green Gentleman from Panic at the Disco, pop punk, Panic at the Disco is in the Holy Trinity. That song is all about coming of age and finding your way in the world. And I find that shit to be super rad, and I hope that you do too. So that is my recommendation for you, Lindsay. Moments with each juror. So I kind of alluded to this with Nick C. My favorite moment with Nick was when he and I after sort of hardly talking at all in terms of strategically or very much even personally, we really popped off in the Final 13. When I can have DR receipts to prove it after the season, I was like, oh, Nick C and I we're I want him close to the end with me. I was like, I love this dude, and I was shocked when he didn't make it. But anyway. And then William, my favorite moment with William is William's weather reports and like his news reports. Like William during the One World was always like, oh my gosh, like y'all hop on call, I'm driving home. And that moment with his dad, that was so funny. And his dad actually like asked about me, which also was very funny because he was like, oh my gosh, like, don't you know someone in Maine? Like I was in Maine the other day. And so I remember talking with William about that and being like, wow, I'm known in the William F household. My favorite moment with Sam. Sam is complicated because we had like a lot of, I would say we had a very volatile relationship in the game in terms of like what our like friendship was like and what our gameplay was like. I had a lot of very negative gameplay experiences with Sam, but I had a lot of really strong personal relationship moments with Sam. And Sam and I had a conversation that was pretty personal, and I kind of just want to leave it at that, although that's a cop out. But Sam and I had a moment together pretty early on in the game that sort of cemented him as someone that like that I could connect to. And to me in a game, that's all that matters. Like from there on, like there's I'll always take the person I feel like I can connect to over the person I can't. So that moment with Sam, he'll know what I'm talking about, is my favorite moment with him. With Emily, Emily's tricky. I think that my favorite moment with Emily was maybe our like 5:30 a.m. talks when Emily totally should have fucking been asleep, and I was waking up because 5:30 is, I guess, on the like early side of reasonable, but still in that reasonable spectrum of hours in which one would wake up. And Emily and I would literally talk every morning, and Emily would be like, "Why the fuck am I still awake?" And I'd be like, Miss Girl, I do not know. Like I was like, you should go to sleep. Like your Discord name is literally Emily is tired. Go to bed, get some sleep. So I loved having those conversations with her. My favorite moment with Lindsay in this game, that's also quite complicated because Lindsay and I did not talk a whole lot. I would say that I guess just reconnecting with Lindsay, because we sort of did that in proximity to Shane at the final 13. And we sort of planned like through Shane and I and Lindsay also, like we sort of like tried to plan out this like potential like sleeper trio, which of course is what you do. But that was my favorite sort of like idea with Lindsay, because I think it would have been really fun if it had worked. But one like after that, it sort of like flew by the wayside and we got separated and it just never really panned out. With Nick R, my favorite moment with Nick is when we talked about like classes. Like I feel like it was like the one personal conversation we had, and we talked about like our favorite books and like what classes, like what would you teach if you could like teach anything. And like that was a very fun conversation just to sort of get a sense of like, oh, this is what Nick R likes to read. Like you can tell a lot about someone from like what they like to read. So that was like a positive connection there. My favorite moment with Lindy, I would just say that like Lindy's I feel like scatterbrained is not like the right word, but just like every moment that had sort of that energy where Lindy would be like I remember in our chat, like when the in the Jared Spills the Tea chat that I had with Emily and Lindy, at one point Lindy was like, yeah, well, I'm like totally cool with keeping you. This was after like the Sapphire Idol. Lindy was like, I'm totally cool with keeping you. Like I'm probably gonna cut you before the end because like I can't beat you, but like I'm gonna cut you. But like, yeah, I'm cool with working with you for a couple rounds. And I was like, I like remember reading that and being like, period. Like I just feel like Lindy played this game so like upfront and honest and like really just true to who she is. And I feel like it was so that like every moment that was like that, like Lindy pitching sort of like Lindsay at the final 13 and then us being like Lindsay is immune. That was another sort of like Lindy moment. It was all just really fun because I feel like I don't know, that was great. Ruthie, y'all know I'm a Ruthie stan. Every moment with Ruthie was the best moment. I will say I didn't even tell Crow this, so I hope that you can forgive me. But my favorite moment with Ruthie, although it was shrouded in sadness because it was when she was getting voted out, Ruthie is actually the only juror I told about Crow and I. And I told Ruthie about, and I told Ruthie about it to sort of contextualize why I was voting her out and why I was not willing to even consider voting for Crow. But I told Ruthie about that. And she was so excited for me. Like she was just so sweet and understanding and compassionate, which is like everything that I know Ruthie for. So that was really sweet and wonderful. And I love Ruthie with my whole heart. And my favorite moment with Eve is the call that we had on the swapped Yerbal tribe team. I'm sorry, the swapped Yerbal team when I came back from my search and I said, "So, Bestie Eve, we've got a Sapphire idol now, and we've also got an idol nullifier." And Eve said, "Oh, we don't have to be afraid anymore." And we just like partied. Like it was so fun. We were so excited. There were so many fun moments with Eve. Like I feel like every fairy council with Eve was literally such a journey and such a trip. God, I could go on all day about Eve. But I think that one specific moment, if you're looking for like an isolated incident, that was such a fun call because we were so petrified and we were literally like, we have to make this. And I was like, I might be able to pull a Sapphire idol. And Eve was like, Bestie, you got to give it your best shot. And that call was like pure celebration. We were on cloud nine. So those are my answers. Sorry if that was too long.
You're all good. All right. Thank you very much for all those answers. That was very fun to listen to. So we have our next juror here, this time with a plugged-in microphone. We have Emily. Emily, you have 7 minutes. I don't know if you want to try talking to us just to make sure it works before we... Well, you're muted. So.
You're on mute now.
How about now?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Hey! Woo! I'm very embarrassed that that's why you couldn't hear me. First I had it unplugged and first I had it and then I had it muted. Anyway, despite how I went out, I am probably one of the saltiest people on this jury. That being said, I'm still very proud of your games. As much as I'm sad that I'm not there, I'm very glad that you two are there. This is a huge change from yesterday. I was so salty recently, but I've come to accept that y'all rocked it. Y'all deserve to be here. I actually feel like I have a pretty good understanding of both of your games, and I only had one question, but Jared already kind of answered it in his initial speech, so I only have a question for you, Crow. What all happened at Final 8? What is your experience that went through that? Because I've heard a lot of different things about how that went. I had a different understanding of how that went, so I just want to hear how that went for you and your whole experience that round.
So I'm glad you brought that up because it was a group vote, obviously, because there were 5 votes, but I'm going to take credit here that it was largely because of my conversations with Nick R. So I don't know if Nick R is very vocal in Jerry House or not, but I was talking to him throughout the day about a deal where we keep each other safe. And in all honesty, Nick R was actually never a vote for our side of the house. We were actually on Lindy, and I was actually genuinely pinching Lindy to him because I was scared of you two being in the middle and flip-flopping between us and me going home because of that flip-flopping. So that was completely genuine to me and Nick R. What happened was that Nick R then took that and kind of was like, okay, well, it's on you still. He didn't seem to budge much. He was like, it's still going to be on you, by the way. If you can vote on Lindy, great, but they're going to still vote for you, and Emily's pushing for you really hard. And so I said, well, okay. So I waited for the day, waited something to change, and nothing changed. And so then he came to me saying that Eve wanted rocks. Eve wanted me and Jared to draw a rock and wanted chaos. And I was like, that's a lie. Clearly, I'm getting lied to now. So then I kind of let Nick R go. And then he came back about an hour later and he was like, hey, vote Lindy. We have me, you, Ruthie, Lindsay, Emily doing Lindy. And I said, Emily? And he said, yeah, Emily's on board. Because at that point, he told me that I stayed without power. So he told me he was going to leave tribal. I was like, we need 4 votes then. And at this point, we are already voting Lindy. So at this point, I'm just trying to fit the narrative of Nick R that we need 4 votes. That's why I approached you with it. And I was like, so Nick R approached me with this. Has he approached you with it? And you told me yes. And then you told Lindy about the whole plan. And Lindy told Jared, Jared told me. And then you told me you're going to vote for Lindy. So that cycled right back through, back to Jared, back to Lindy. And that was to make sure the vote landed on both of you instead of me. I didn't want any votes that ran. I didn't have an idol. You know, everyone thought I did. I didn't have anything. I was nervous as hell. So I was hoping that you two would vote each other and I could stay out of it. And the vote flipped to you over Lindy because we thought we could pull in Lindy afterwards. Like, oh my gosh, they turned on you. How sad. Come in with us now. We'll take you to Final 5. And I think that's what happened. And that's why it ended up being your blindside. It wasn't on you the whole day. It was in the last 30 minutes, really. But hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, that does. That was so wild. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. This is gonna sound fake after how mean I've been to like literally everybody. But good game, you two. Y'all rocked it. You kicked my ass. You kicked everyone's asses, and you do deserve your spots. You're rocking it. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right. Thank you, Emily. I'm going to kick Emily out now. Thank you so much. Okay. Next up, we have our next juror. We have all the way from jail himself, my second favorite Nick. Here's Nick R. You have 7 minutes.
Well, first of all, I love how much RTP hates me. I live for it. And as soon as I get out of jail, I'm coming for him. First of all, I just want to clarify, Crow, that I never said that Eve wanted to go to Rocks. I said that Lindy wanted to go to Rocks. And that's why I had talked to you about that plan. So I never said Eve wanted to go to Rocks. So I'm not sure why you would say that.
You asked me to vote Eve, though. Can we agree on that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you told me Eve wanted Jared and I to draw a rock because of whatever. I don't know. Maybe Lindy did push the original plan, but you did tell me that it was Eve wanting Jared and I to be in trouble.
No.
Was your pitch to get me to flip on Eve? Because I told you
No.
I'm going to vote with them. Okay.
No, go back and check your messages, because I never said anything about Eve wanting you out or wanting to draw rocks. I said Lindy wanted to force rocks, and so Emily wanted to put the vote on Eve so that you and Jared had to draw a rock. Okay, my question is for you, Crow. And you kind of alluded to talking to me and having a conversation after Sam left. And for me, I was really open in that conversation. Again, go back and check your messages, because as far as I know, after that point, I never once lied to you or told you something that was untrue. I was being 100% honest with you, and you said that you were also being honest with me and were going to trust me as well. Obviously, that did not happen. You lied to me a lot. So I'm just wondering why, when you had all the power, I know you're trying to spin it like you felt really vulnerable, but why, when you had all the power in our dynamic, why you would still lie? Because we had that conversation where I said the thing that bothers me the most is when people are intentionally fake or they lie for no reason, and you agreed, and then you did that. So I'm wondering if you can explain why you did that.
I'll admit I lied. I'm not saying I was completely honest with you. Like, I'm not going to try to keep that story up, but there is a reason for it, and it's because Final 8 was the first round where we were testing Ruthie's loyalty mainly, and that was through Jared. That was not my connection. Ruthie was completely Jared's connection. So for me, it was like I'm playing blind faith in someone else's connection to someone else, that I'm actually not going to be the vote. And you let me know that my name was out there very early. So yes, I know you think I was a majority sitting pretty this whole game, but I didn't have an idol. I think you figured that out. Sapphire Idol was in Eve's hands. Eve was not playing it at Final 8. I was, if Ruthie decided, never mind, I'm going to flip back, I would be going home. So the vulnerability act wasn't just a fake thing.
No, you were not going home, because I told you that we were voting for Eve. And we were voting for Eve.
Last second, that was the last 3 hours.
Until we switched it to Lindy. I told you that they
wanted
wanted to vote you at the beginning.
You were in trouble, but you didn't believe me. You were never actually the vote.
Right, because you lied. Why would I believe you?
Okay, well, I guess we just were lying to each other then, because if you're not going to
No, I never lied to you.
Honest to me.
I never lied to you. After the Sam vote, I never lied to you.
Okay. I mean, I lied to you because I didn't trust you.
I know you did, but you have no reason why.
I just told you the reason why is that Ruthie was the thing we were banking on that round. And you came to me and said, I have no reason to believe Ruthie is lying. Why are you lying to me? And I was like, Nick, I'm not the one lying to you. But I couldn't throw Ruthie under the bus there because I trusted Ruthie more than you. You said verbatim, you said, why would Ruthie lie to me? And I'm sitting here like, Ruthie is lying to you, bud. Jared and Ruthie have a thing going on. Ruthie leaked the whole Sapphire Idol plan to Jared round 9. Still voted him. But that whole thing was because Ruthie was leaking everything you were saying in your chat. So when you said you claimed that you should trust Ruthie before me, it was like, I can't do anything. You know, like I don't know how to convince. I obviously knew I couldn't convince you to trust me over Ruthie. But at that time, I was protecting Ruthie first and foremost because I trusted her more than you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick R. You can. I'll make sure I'll go into protective witness program when he gets out of jail, because now I'm scared. All right. Next up, we have the queen of not knowing, who is immune herself. It is Lindy. All right, Lindy.
No,
yeah,
don't
7
shame
minutes.
me like that. Hi guys, how's it going? So glad that you are here because I wanted people I like to get here. So good job. First off, I do want to add to that whole Final 8 thing where I did joke that we should do rocks, and that also spurred like Emily and I didn't know who to go for. She faked not knowing who to go for, and I was like, "Oh, let's just both spin wheels," and then it ended up being 4-4. We were like, "Let's go to rocks," and that was a joke, and it kind of got insane, and that was really fun. This I had to do this at my last council, so you guys have to do it. Can you close your eyes? Okay. I'm going to go through all of the jury members, and I want to know who you think that you could beat. So just like raise your hand. Nixie. William. Sam. Emily. Nick R. Me. Ruthie. Eve. Cool. There were not a lot of hands there, which I think is very familiar for all of us. That's cool. I don't remember any other questions. Crow. We never really talked a whole lot. And I think the big thing is I was always on your guys' side, like as a whole. And I just wonder, like, what would have been different if we actually all trusted each other?
What would have been different is that I guess the quote unquote pecking order would have been different. Like, to me, if I approached you about game, it would feel entirely fake. Because I think at Final 5, we both knew each other were voting for each other, and it was up to the other 3. So, like, for me, I enjoyed talking to you on a personal level, but to broach strategy after kind of knowing where this chip slide felt a little bit overkill. And I think maybe you felt that too. And like, we just didn't have the connections or even pre-fake merge or whatever it was, like to really connect and like vote together. And like, my only impression of you was the Final 13 vote where you came out the whole Nixie thing. So I was like, I don't know, I can talk to Lindy a ton about strategy and not like have it be like out in the open and be public. So like, I think just because of where we landed, it was hard to open up that conversation. I didn't feel like it was necessary to.
Okay. You're all good. I think it was really fun no matter what. I just want to say that I'm really proud of you guys for like fighting through the whole, you guys are a pre-made, and I'm really glad I got to go along on the journey with you guys, and good luck. Ryan, you're muted.
Fuck off. Fuck off. Not you. Not to you, Linda. Not you. Fuck off to me and not remembering to do that. Whatever. I'm kicking you out. Goodbye. All right. Thank you, Lindy. Our next juror is Ruthie. Unfortunately, she had a last-minute thing where she's babysitting, so she's not here, but she did send a video, so we have Ruthie here for you. Don't worry.
Hey Crow, hey Jared, congratulations on Final 2. I'm really happy for the two of you. If you're seeing this means that I'm still babysitting, so I'm not able to make it live. Sorry that I look like trash and I'm literally wearing a school shirt. Anyway, I have 2 questions. The first one is, when did you feel the lowest in the game? And how did you get out of the funk of feeling so low? Question 2 is, what was your happiest moment in the game? I'm really happy for the two of you. I can't wait to see who wins. I think I know who I'm voting for, but I mean, my mind could be changed. It's happened before, and it'll probably happen again. But yeah, I can't wait. Good luck. I love you both, and I think you both deserve to win. Good luck.
All right. Whichever one of you wants to go ahead and start with that.
All right. I will take the lead. Okay, so my lowest point in this game was probably, it's got to be when Jinx was rocked out, right? Little known fact, I actually did know about Shane's extra vote, and I knew that that was something that he was anticipating playing, but I was not anticipating a deadlock, just because I guess I underestimated Sam's desire to be chaotic. but my lowest point in this game was Jinx getting rocked out, because Jinx, like, there was all this swirling rumors about the pre-made and like whatever. And I didn't know that like any of the people that I was accused of being in a pre-made with were playing. But Jinx is like one of my closest friends. Happy birthday, Jinx! If you're watching this, today is Jinx's birthday. Shout out to them. So my lowest point in this game was Jinx going home in a rock draw and then getting swapped onto a team almost exclusively of people that had just voted against me, although no one really, no one's side really won in that, I guess. But I felt very insecure in my spot in the game. And I would say that's really like the only point in which I felt that way. I had a brief moment of that in the final 9, the final 8. But that would be my lowest moment. And I would say that I picked myself up in 2 ways. Like I use the advantage system, like I talked about at the beginning. Like I had a lot of information coming in from a lot of different places. And I used that to my advantage. And I found the Sapphire Idol, which ended up being crucial. And that was a real pick-me-up in a pretty obvious way. And then my second pick-me-up for that is Ruthie herself. Like going in, the first message that Ruthie sent me is, I'm so glad we're on a team together. Like, don't worry about the fact that you just voted me. Like, I hope we can move forward from that. And I was like, Ruthie, you are so gracious and kind. Like, Ruthie could have been like, Jared, go to hell. Like, you just voted for me and I have a majority on this team. And she would have been right to do so. Like, I couldn't have even held it against her. So like that was my like lowest point in the game, and then sort of like where I started to pick back up from that. And also winning those challenges, like that's not a thing that I do in my like regular org career outside of this game. But I would say that I almost single-handedly won those 2 post-swap challenges, and I feel good about that. That was a pick-me-up as well. And then my highest point in the game, there's 2 different moments that are contenders for this. The first would be like when the merge like finally happened. Crow and I jumped on a call almost immediately. And it was so good to be like sort of back with my person, like in the game and also like just in general. And so that was a really high point for me, like to feel like, okay, I've made it out of this really dark sort of like risky spot. Like even with the Sapphire Idol, I was very nervous about what would happen if we had gone to council as that swap team. So being reunited with Crow was a huge high point in the game for me. I felt like everything was sort of like falling back into place. And we just picked right back up where we left off. And then my second high point in the game, I already said for a really long time, probably from like the final 9 or the final 8, I knew in my brain and in my heart that I wanted it to be Crow and I sitting here together. And so winning that final immunity challenge, like I had a pretty good idea that Eve wasn't going to take me had Eve won the challenge. And I'm interested to hear from Eve if that is the case. But I just didn't feel like that was what was going to happen. And so a really high point in the game was winning that challenge. Like I don't know, being in a final 2, like I just never thought that would be something I could accomplish with like the threat level that I sort of had throughout this entire game. So the fact that I was sitting here and that I like had literally like earned my spot at the end, it felt incredible. Like it was so good. So those are my highs and my lows. And I love you, Ruthie.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep this as like non-personal as possible, but it was a personal low I think that happened, and it was because of the game. But at final 9 when Sam went, because Sam was my person at Mohawk, and Sam, Jared, and I had a thing for a while from Shoru, and I was the middleman in a lot of ways. Like Jared and Sam had tension, both from game and probably personal levels too, and I got on calls with both of them, and it was just like, for my game, I wanted them to get along, and on a personal level, I was like, I can't deal with this for like much longer. And so when Sam eventually had to go because he came after Jared and Jared played Sapphire Idol and all that happened, that was hard because I felt like we didn't get closure, which is why I reached out to you, Nick R. It was actually more of a personal thing than it was game. It just transformed into game. And as much as, it was hurtful to hear, I guess, Nick R. tell me that Sam called me spineless to him. And like all these things is like, I get in a game since he wanted Jared out, I knew I wouldn't do it. And so I tried to put myself in his shoes, but him not showing up here tells me a lot. And I guess maybe I'm still in that low, but that low certainly hit after Final 9, where it was like we never got into conversation about what happened. And the pick-me-up following that was honestly didn't come until much later when it was final 6 or 5, whenever I started getting votes. And I was just like, the chat was like, by the way, Crow, you're the other name out there, by the way. Like, they're like, just so you know. And like, putting my entire trust and faith in other people and having them follow through. Like Jared knows, of all people, I was nervous as hell throughout every single council. I know I sat in this pretty majority pre-made, but I wasn't feeling that way. And so the pick me up was having the reaffirmation time vote after vote that people actually did have my back. And it wasn't just like I was on my own plateau after Sam left. Like people generally picked me up, Ruthie particularly picked me up and let me back in the game. And although that was in terms of the game, as a personal level, it was like, okay, maybe I'm like not as isolated as I feel. And maybe I'm still on that upward rise and I'm not quite picked up yet because I didn't expect Sam to go and final 9 and I didn't expect Sam to, I don't know, not care to be here. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
All right. Thank you both so much. And thank you, Ruthie, Queen of the World. All right. We have the final juror here with us tonight. They were on time, early, just hanging out in the back. None other than Lindsay's winner. We have Eve. Eve, you have 7 minutes.
Yes, Lindsay's winner, as well as you should both know, the winner in the rest of the jury's eyes as well. Yeah, no surprise. My first question, Crow, is this your ideal final 2?
Out of who? Out of jury?
Is this your ideal situation? Jared eliminating me over you. Sorry, you being here with Jared over me.
No.
Okay, so Jared, question number 2. What happened in the 58 minutes between you sending me the message saying, can't wait to fight the jury with you, and you voting me out?
It was, nothing, to be honest.
Okay, so
like, if you want straight up frontness, do you want, like, nothing?
Okay, so what? So then it was in the 4 hours between you asking. Okay, cool.
No, so do you want me to elaborate, or are you, like?
No, I kind of like figured. I'm just kind of happy. Like I was gonna be really upset if like there was like. So Crow, if you want immunity, who are you taking?
I was taking Jared still.
Okay.
I think part of me wanted to see beyond the personal stuff because I'm sure that I mean, maybe I didn't have a chance against you apparently, but maybe I didn't have a chance against either of you. But in my eyes at the time, it was better against you, but I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Okay. Yeah, that sucks because it was like all like from Final 5 is like both of you in my ear asking me about Final 2s. And I don't know if it was like, ooh, maybe a little Eve, like is like every season the final thing is trivia. You guys both knew I worked all day, didn't have time to study. And it was like, oh, we're like so honest with each other, we're so loyal to each other, we're so Final 3. Final 3 is like, why like do that? Like it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. It was like every time Jared got off call, it was Crow going, we can't beat Jared in the end. And then every time it was just me and Jared, it was, we can't beat Crow in the end. I just don't get it. Like, it's like, you guys saw me at my lowest point in this game, where I felt really stupid because someone called me stupid. And like now I sit here and I realize all this, like, how am I supposed to be made to feel? Because I feel like really stupid because it's like, oh, I was always 3rd. The same way that Ruthie was always 5th. And the same way, Ruthie was always 4th. And Lindy was always 5th. And Nick was always 6th. When, like Jared said earlier, I literally shaped the merge just for you guys to lie to me at the end of a comp that I had no chance in winning. So I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't know. So RTP, how do you guys bring cue cards? Yes, okay. The classic Eve question. I'm going to give you guys a minute. You guys are going to sort your cue cards from whose jury vote you want the most to the least. Time starts now. Asia, that's so real. I don't know. Also, in this time, I guess you guys can respond to anything that I said. So.
I did want to respond. I'm still sorting, but I did want to respond to the immunity thing. I didn't see you being out of the competition. I knew it was trivia, but like maybe you haven't played a game together, but I really didn't think you were like done for. Like,
I
I don't
talked
know.
about at the last council how I have had the worst comp record, even in the merge. I've gotten
You
last
won
in
Final
every
Four
comp.
immunity. You won Final Four.
Because you guys threw
you
it
won
to
the team
me.
amount of challenges. So like I don't know. I didn't peg you as a weak link in the challenge. Like I studied, but I didn't think you would like obviously be out and I was just leading you on. Like that's not what was in my head. My head was you could win, and I still don't want to just act like I didn't try to talk to you about it.
Eve, I know that this is your time, but am I allowed to ask you? And if I'm not, then just tell me to fuck off. But you were cutting me, right?
Yeah, I was cutting you, but like the different, like my only difference is I never told you past Final 5 I was taking you to the end.
Yeah, no, and the only reason that so my only explanation is that I said what I said, I guess deliberately, ambiguously to say like, hey, I think Crow is a threat, but from my perspective, so I had a bad read because based off of what Lindsay said, because I thought that I thought I'd be able to be either of you, to be honest, and that's my delusion. Yeah, right. And so that's my thing there. But the reason why I like talk to you like that is because I didn't want to simply throw in the towel, because I think we can both agree, right, that my best move strategically was to flip on this 3 and go with Ruthie and Lindy at the final 5, because I think that if I could take you out at 5 and then take Lindy out at 3, I would be at final 3 with 2 people who would take me. And so I took the risk in bringing you, I guess, because I felt like it was not the correct thing to do to not take you past that. I don't know. There's no excuse, but that's just where my head was at. Is I messaged you because I didn't want it to be like, I wouldn't have been able to forgive myself if I just let myself sit there knowing that you were going to cut me at 3 if you won. And so I had to say something to make it like a possibility that you might take me, even though to me it felt disingenuous for the both of us. Like I never, you know what I mean? Like if you had won, I would have fully anticipated that you would have cut me.
But I didn't anticipate you cutting me. Because you
yeah,
told
and
me
I don't
less than an
right
hour before that you weren't.
Right. And so, the only reason that I said that is because, like I said, on the chance that you won the challenge. So here's the thing, like from my perspective, if you had won that challenge and I had never said any of those things to you and you had cut me, I would have sat for God knows how long being like, well, if I had just tried, then maybe I could have gotten Eve to take me. And I would have gotten second place apparently, but like, you know, like, so for me, that was my perspective, is that I needed to do something to at least convince myself that I was putting in the effort, should you win, so that I wouldn't have that regret if you did win and I had been cut at 3.
Right.
And I'm sorry, like, that's it. I'm sorry that hurt you. And I do regret that.
All right, thank you. Let's get to these lists. Let's start with dead last, whose vote do you not care about at all? Ooh, okay. Next is the Niners 8th. 7th. 6th. What are we at? 5th? 5th, right? Okay. Oh, a tie. 4th. William. 3rd. Lindy. Sam. 2nd. Emily. Eve. Okay. Eve. Emily. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Closing thoughts. I don't know. It just kind of sucks. Like I said, that you both knew I didn't study all day, but I was having both of you in my ear since Final 5. So that was kind of really disheartening, because it made me feel like you guys saw me both as just as equal to as Lindy and Ruthie, when I thought it was like, it just felt like, I don't know, I don't want to say like disingenuous, but I just felt like really kind of, I was hurt, but it is what it is. See y'all later, I guess. Thank you, RTP, so much for having me. It was such a sexy season. See you bitches on All Stars. Actually, no, I don't want to see you on All Stars. See ya.
All right. Well, whenever we do All Stars, I bet y'all will be able to see Eve there for sure. So thank you, Eve. You've done it. All the jurors have spoken. There's only one thing left to do, and that is your closing speeches. We each have 5 minutes for a closing speech. I feel like the order is that we said Crow would go first and Jared would go second. All right. So Crow, your 5 minutes starts now.
So I didn't prepare this part, but I think just to kind of summarize what has occurred. For one, I do recognize that Jared is not an easy beat. I do recognize I'm not game blind to the fact that this is not the ideal final two I just answered each question to. However, I balanced out my priorities in this game and I played the best game I could as an individual. But maybe it loses me the game, and maybe I'm prepared for that. I've told Jared that probably 1,000 times, but I made good friends in this game that I hope to talk to outside of this game. And to those that we had little to no conversation with or bad conversation with, it was never like meant to be personal. Like I guess I'm hoping this game takeaway is never going to be on a personal level. I get the fakeness. I've been the juror. I've been the juror many, many times. So I understand the perspective of being lied to on your way out. And I am so sorry if I took place in that. And if I did and it was unnecessary, then maybe I do regret that. In my eyes, I was hoping it would be unnecessary, but I think Nick R did point out that maybe it was unnecessary. But in conclusion of my game, I think I played an individual game, but I did rely on Jared and Eve. And it was because I personally could not cut them. And I have grown as a player throughout playing many years of orgs to the point where I don't think I could log in every day knowing I cut them and move on the game. Nothing happened. Like I have won games before and I felt very guilty for it. So again, if it loses me the game, I understand. But I just can't. To me, the head and the heart thing has become unbalanced. But I did have a blast nonetheless, and I hope we have a bomb reunion call, and hopefully beyond whatever happens with the vote and how people reconnect. But I do say I do genuinely want to talk to people after this because of what happened in this jury Q&A. Like I do want to have further conversations, game related or not. But I did have a good time, and I wish Jared the best of luck. And I actually do hope to see you guys soon and maybe another game. But yeah, that's really all I had.
All right, it's my turn. So I guess this is I don't know. Going through a jury Q&A is always like so crazy and stressful and super illuminating. So I think that I came into this knowing and thinking that like there were going to be moments that I was going to have to explain because I was sort of the person. I mean, Lindsay dubbed me the Regina George of the trio. And I think that being the Regina George, which I think maybe is ambiguous to those that were within the trio themselves, is something that comes with, having to burn people and like working with people and in rings and in these social cliques and whatever. And I do feel bad about that. Like I feel bad about the idea that I've hurt Eve, and I feel bad about the idea that like I may have hurt Emily, or I may have hurt Lindy, or I may have hurt Ruthie, or anyone that like I sort of like led to believe that I was planning to do something else. That's never my intention, and it doesn't really matter what my intention is. So I do want to like genuinely apologize for that, because I don't know. That's just always like a sad part of being here. But that being said, I do think that I was able to sort of play this game in a really unique way. I haven't played in org in 9 months. It's been a very long time since I've been here. The last time I played Survivor, I was sitting at the final Fairy Council. It wasn't Fairy Council, obviously, but at Final Council. And I played a game that I felt like was very true to who I was a year ago. And that person was sort of like social under the radar. No one knew who I was. And I came into this game and I said, like, I want to let go of this idea that I need to win. I want to let go of this idea that like I need to do like the by the book Survivor game. And so I came in and I played differently. Like I played who 2021 Jared is. Like I'm a teacher now. I'm not a student teacher. I'm a whole different person. And so I feel like I played like as I've evolved as a person, I feel like my game did as well. And I made decisions that weren't always the most strategic, but those are the decisions that I'm most proud of. Like, I'm proud of taking the risk to take Crow and Eve to the final 3. I'm proud of the risk to like not be like fully talking to everyone all the time, like letting that go, that feeling that I need to be like in complete control. I'm really proud strategically of the things that I did. I think that I was a mover and a shaker in this game. I think I did very well in that sense. I think that I did my best to make it so that I didn't leave people with a bad taste in their mouth. I did my best to make sure that I wasn't being unnecessarily cruel. I did my best to make sure that I was sort of always moving with this sort of end game in mind. Even though it was for me very round by round, in the sense that I needed to do what I needed to do to move forward by 1, and sort of keeping that in the rear view in terms of, or I guess not in the rear view, but keeping that on the horizon in terms of where I wanted to go and how I wanted to get there. So I feel proud of that game. Like, I feel proud of just everything. I won competitions. I was the only person who played an idol, and I played it successfully. I cast the soul vote twice, which is pretty cool. Not many people get to say that they've done that. And so I just feel good. I feel good about the game that I played. And I know that it was a game that I think that you can find flaw in. And I think there are a lot of flaws. And that's why I'm sitting here with the people that I'm sitting here with. Not only because I wanted to go to the end with the people that I felt really close to personally, but also because I knew, like, you can look back at Lindy's question, the merge phase was a string of people that I could not beat, because everyone had this conception of me as this player that came in with these connections and who sort of had it the easiest. And so I had to sit with other people who had a similar battle in that sense. So I feel like I made the right decisions strategically, and I feel like I got myself here, which was always my intention. And so I do walk away from this game proud, and I hope that if I did really like genuinely hurt people, like particularly you, Eve, like I really hope that that doesn't impact our friendship and our relationship moving forward, because it was shitty. It was shitty that I like led you to believe that I was going to take you. And I regret that, and that's just sort of what it is. But I hope that you all as a jury will see my game, and I hope that you all will sort of, I don't know, appreciate what it took for me to get here, because I think that my name was running around from very early on in this game. And for me to sit here with no votes that counted against me, I'm really proud of that. So thank you, RTP. Thank you to the host. Thank you to the jury. Thank you to the VL. Thank you to everyone who let this happen, because I have had a blast. And there's no other way I'd want it to end. So thank you all.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. It is official. Your jobs in this game are done. You have been talking for 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is a lot of time. And all of the power now goes to the jurors, where they have to make a decision as to which one of you they are going to vote to win Survivor Crystal Kingdom. For anyone in the viewing lounge who is also watching, we are putting out a fan favorite poll, so you will also have a decision to make for who your favorite player in the game was. And yeah, that's it. 24 hours, 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. We will all get on call together with the finalists, some of the jurors. We'll have a nice little award ceremony. Use that time to show off what we're doing with the Retirement Home org soon after this game is over, and then we will have our winner reveal. So congratulations to the two of you. Thank you so much for participating in everything tonight, Jerry.